Well, the Grand Slam rocky road continued on day 2 here at the AO with a few big names stumbling and then regaining their composure, and a few others falling completely and are out of the competition at the first hurdle. And well, last night even, Nick Lester, as we introduced you to the AO show, we got a taste of that with Novak's difficult 4-setter against a qualifier.
Yeah, longest first round ever that he's played at a major, almost 4 hours. I think it was on 4 hours, wasn't it? And you can only be impressed, I think, by what we saw from a young 18-year-old playing on a big stage for the very first time, someone that's got no experience, particularly at this level. I thought he took it to Djokovic really throughout the entire match. Physically, he was able to match him in so many regards. He was equal of the world number one, and hopefully if we see that sort of level from him for the next couple of years plus, he's going to continue to progress, and on the evidence of what we saw last night, he's got a big future.
Simon Ray, in a similar vein, Tsitsipas was challenged today, dropped the first set in his match against a lucky loser, regained his composure to win in 4. But Nicolas Jarry, one of the biggest seed, I think the only men's seed to fall so far, was a different story on court 13.
Yeah, hi John, good to be back with you. Hi Nick, and thanks for the opportunity to get back together. So a little bit of everything today on day 2, didn't we? We saw a little bit of it all, and the old day 1 of the event and the first Monday, and you mentioned the Nicolas Jarry match. One of the things I love about this sport is it continues to ask questions of us, doesn't it? So as athletes, we see Nicolas Jarry have an incredible 2023, takes his ranking, skyrockets his ranking. And one of the best servers on tour. So in terms of that, you're talking about the number 2 rated server on tour across 2023. But the contrast, so the number 61 rated returner on tour in 2023. And it comes and bites him today when he can least afford it. First round of the opening major of 2024. Set number 1, doesn't win a point on second serve return. That's just unheard of.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest servers on tour, huge weapons, huge cuts on the ball, speed and spin through the roof, but does not win a point on second serve return in the opening set. In set 3, which he also drops, wins 17% of second serve return points. And ultimately in the deciding set, the 5th set, 40%. Those numbers just don't get it done. So you tip your cap to him on one side of the coin about the extraordinary 2023 that he's had. But then he's going to have to reflect, he and his team and his camp, that he's got more work to do. And clearly from a returner serve perspective, he was found wanting today.
Yeah, and incredibly, I think he's now 0-5, isn't he, Si? In 5-set matches. He's yet to win a 5-set match in his career. He's now lost at 5-set matches at all 4 majors.
That's a crazy stat. Flavio Cobolli, the young Italian qualifier who did the damage. The scoreline there, 6-4, 3-6, 6-3, 2-6. 7-5, and there was a crucial moment in the 12th game of the 5th set where Jarry received a point penalty for the ball falling out of his pocket for the second time in the match, and it really swung the momentum towards the Italian.
Yeah, I was actually courtside for it. I went out to have a look at the last set. It was buzzing out there. Was so many people around. He served for it at 5-4, as you say, and of course when the ball does fall out of the pocket for a second time, you don't get away with it the second time, so that made it 15-30. But to be honest, my feelings when I was watching it was just he just got a little bit tight, and I wonder if that 5-set record came into play, whether it was somewhere in the back of his mind, because he just, for me, just got a little bit tight under pressure.
Well, trying conditions out there today too. We're seeing the temperature on the rise, and the physicality that gets questioned in terms of best of 5-set tennis, and Nick's touched on that in terms of Jarry's 5-set record. So just some questions, some things for him to ponder. So an outstanding 2023 campaign, but he's got more work to do, to break through that next echelon across season 2024, as evidenced today. And I think we also have to acknowledge the outstanding performance from Cobolli and the variety that we saw from him. So trying to counter that enormous Jarry serve, sometimes right up on top of the baseline, sometimes inside the baseline on second serve return, and other times 4 and 5 meters back behind the baseline. So constantly giving an opponent a different look, trying to disrupt the rhythm of the huge server. So I think you have to stand and applaud what we saw from the young Italian on court 13 today.
So the men's 18th seed is out of the competition on day 2. Marketa Vondrousova, the women's 7th seed, is also out. But let's look ahead to tomorrow, day 3. Still the first round for the first time here at the AO on day 3. And there's some tantalising matchups, especially in the women's fixture. Iga Swiatek and Sofia Kenin, 2 Grand Slam winners there. But the one we're going to put the spotlight on today, Nick, is Elena Rybakina taking on Karolina Pliskova.
Yeah, big match. I think they're 3-0 head-to-head, aren't they? Rybakina obviously has won all 3 previous meetings, going back through a bit of history. Great start to the year. Obviously 2 of the best servers perhaps in the women's tennis right now. Pliskova obviously a little later stage of her career, has had some ups and downs, has never quite been able to get over the line, has been a world number 1, let's not forget that. So she's reached the top of the sport, never been able to get over the line in a major, so perhaps a little bit of baggage at these big events for her. But perhaps now in the sort of twilight of her career, I don't think that's being unfair, is it? Perhaps the last couple of years, and maybe just for me, I think probably the difference between the 2 is Rybakina's movement. I think she just defends a little bit better than someone like a Pliskova does, but Pliskova has the ability on a hot day to make it tight.
Well, Nick's stolen my thunder. I think all of the threads that I was wanting to pull at, he's touched on. So 3-0 in terms of head-to-head, all on hard courts and all in straight sets. So from the head-to-head perspective, you look at this matchup and you think Rybakina's clearly got the wood over Pliskova. But I think Nick also makes an outstanding point. Who knows how many more Australian Open campaigns Karolina Pliskova's got in her. And we know, when we look at her play, we know what she's capable of. When she's at her best, she's an absolutely fearsome fearsome player to be opposing. Weapons everywhere, can do damage on serve, can do damage on return. We didn't see her a lot in the second half of 2023. Pulled up stumps on the campaign relatively early off the back of the US Open, I think from memory there. May have played at San Diego, and then we saw a couple of other matches from her in Guadalajara, but it was a relatively empty second half of 2020 from Pliskova. So I just wonder, if not now, when? From the camp of Pliskova. And so I hope that we see a desperate Karolina Pliskova, and certainly there's no question marks around her ability or the weapons that she can bring to the fight. So I think there's an element of danger to it from a Rybakina perspective tomorrow.
Similar game styles, Nick. How are they going to find the edge on each other? Where can this match be decided?
I mean, I think Pliskova, as I mentioned, with the serve as good as she is always going to have a chance. She's always going to be in with an opportunity because, there's just a little bit of additional pressure, I think, on Rybakina from that regard, if she can get 3 points, if she's able to maintain a high first serve percentage. So she's in the mix. She's played well in Australia as well. That's always that kind of feel-good factor. If it's going to be hot, and I think temperatures look to be pretty hot tomorrow, that's going to help Pliskova as well, because that'll just keep the conditions nice and lively. So, it's definitely no doubt an awkward first round for Rybakina, but in saying that, she's without doubt progressed her game over the last 12 months or so. She's right at the top of the sport and perhaps playing the best tennis of her career.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to serve and return. So just taking a look at some of the data or some of the numbers or what we've seen from these 2 players across their Australian campaign so far in 2024, I think for Pliskova to have a chance in this match, has to have an outstanding serving night, and then perhaps has to hope that Rybakina is not at her absolute ruthless best on her service game. Because if she gets a look at some second serves, Pliskova, and she's able to build some scoreboard pressure, she can do some damage. She's generally stepping a long way inside the baseline on second serve return. So let's monitor that early in this contest. But I think Nick's made an outstanding point. It is the twilight of the Karolina Pliskova career now. Who knows how many more opportunities like this one that she's going to have over the coming years. So let's hope she grabs a hold of it with both hands, and we've got an exciting, enticing match on our hands tomorrow.
All right, put the spotlight on you two now. A prediction for the winner and set scoreline.
I think Rybakina's going to win 7-6, 6-4. Maybe a tie-break in the mix.
Well, I think Rybakina can be our Australian Open champion, but I'm also very respectful of what Pliskova brings to this match tomorrow. So I think Rybakina gets it done, perhaps a very tight first set. I'll say something like 7-6, gets on top in the second, 6-2.
Nick, Simon, thank you very much for joining us on the AO Show today.
Pleasure.
Good to be with you. Thanks.